Hi, Dr. Ann.
Hi, Kristen. I got some info from my tech that you're here today with your new lizard friend. Who's this?
This is Blue. I just got him at the Glen Cove Pickup.
Wow, okay.
He's my first ever lizard.
Wow, okay. Do you mind if I take a look at him?
I would so love to.
Awesome.
Here's my little guy.
Did they tell you anything at the store about him at all, or just...
No.
fell in love?
They're actually closing down, so he was half off.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, they couldn't tell me much. But they did say he's really nice.
Well, I can see that for sure. Now, I can tell you right off the bat that this is a leopard gecko. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
They're very popular and very good pets, so you picked a good one here.
All right.
And I can tell you that he's an adult, but I can't tell you his exact age, just because once reptiles hit their adult size and look, it's very hard to be like, he's 6 or he's 4. So I can't tell you the exact age, but I can tell you that he is not a baby anymore. He's a full-grown man. Did you know he's a boy?
I did not.
He is a boy.
All right.
So good name choice.
Okay, thank goodness. Things are working out.
Things are working out. Things are working out. I'll just do a little physical exam for you here. Did they tell you anything about what he was eating at the store?
They had a couple crickets in there.
Okay.
Some of them had like this weird powder on it, but I don't know what the powder was.
Okay, good. Good to know. Good to know. So how comfortable are you with feeding insects? Because this is an insectivorous species, meaning they only eat insects.
I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
Yeah,
okay,
I don't mind crickets
great.
at all.
Awesome. So that little powder that was on their food is actually calcium powder. Because the insects that they eat, they have what is known as an incorrect calcium to phosphorus ratio, which is big, fancy, fun terms for the fact that we need to give them a little more calcium so that these bones stay nice and strong. Which I can tell you just by looking at him and doing little tests of his joints, he's got fantastic ranges of motions here. So that is awesome.
Good.
One thing that we really look for with these guys and that we want to make sure that we're keeping up with, regards to the calcium, is something called metabolic bone disease. If they don't get enough calcium in their diet, our bones, which are nice and big and strong here, can become weak and kind of spongy. So you'll notice that his joints start to kind of bend up, which he doesn't have any of that, which is fantastic, and we don't want any of that.
Okay.
So what I would recommend is, since he's an adult, he does not need to eat every day. That's a big thing that people don't know, because you feed them and then they get overweight. And we don't want him to get overweight. So I would shoot for maybe every other day to maybe every 3 days, with a good variety of insects. So we're going to look at things like the crickets that you saw at the store.
Okay.
There's also things called mealworms, which sound really gross, but you can find them also available at your local stores. There's also some different kinds of roaches as well, but roaches can kind of gross people out. So normally crickets tend to be a good starting one.
Okay. How do I know if he's overweight at all?
Yeah, so let's take a look. As I'm looking at him here, I think he's actually a really great weight, and I would like for him to stay at this weight.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and grab a scale in a little bit to get an accurate weight for him. But what we do is we go ahead and look at a couple things when we call it body condition scoring. No offense, Blue. We're not trying to roast you here. We want to look at this tail because this is where they're going to kind of store most of their fat.
Okay.
And we want to make sure when we're looking at it that it's kind of approximate in width with his little hips here. We don't want something that's absolutely huge, and we absolutely don't want something that is a straight like stick. There are other species of reptile that their tails are very stick-like, but if these guys get it, it's actually a very concerning disease.
Okay.
So we just want to make sure that he's not losing all that weight. Additionally, if they are a little overweight, they can get these cute little pockets under their armpits. But those, we don't want them to have cute little side pockets.
Okay.
So we don't want that.
Okay.
So he doesn't have that, so that's good. But sometimes we'll see that. We can also see that if they end up having excess mineralization. So if you have too much calcium, they can store it there. So look at these little pockets.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. How do I know how much calcium to put on insects?
Great question. So when you go ahead and get your insects home from the store, the first thing I recommend doing is putting them in a separate container. And we'll get to what his habitat's looking like in a second. But there's these things called critter keepers. And that's where I keep my insects.
Oh no, I keep him in a critter container.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Because I saw that in my note here, so I want to make sure we chat about it. But I really think it's good to put your insects in that container that you already have.
Okay.
To do what's known as gut loading. So what we want to do is we want to feed those insects things like veggies, so carrots, lettuce. There's a couple pre-mixed diets that you can get for insects. You can do fruits, but it tends to mold, so you just want to make sure that you're cleaning that out.
Okay.
So that gets those crickets or whatever insects super healthy. But then when you go to feed him for his supplements, which is the calcium, and there's also a multivitamin, I do it like every other feeding. So what I'll do is I'll just get a little container, maybe a bag. I'll put the insects in the bag, and then I'll just put like a little spoonful of the calcium powder, and I just kind of shake them up so they're covered with it. They'll look kind of white and dusty. That's how you know that they have enough like what you saw at the store.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, let's chat about his little home here. For these guys, there's a little bit of mixed point of view about what kind of a minimum tank size is. He is an adult, so we don't really want to look at juvenile sizes for tanks anymore. I would recommend either a 20 long for a glass tank, or even a 40 breeder tank would be even better, because this will give him so much room to move around and have a lot of enrichment in his enclosure.
Okay.
And because they are reptiles, they do have to have a source of heat themselves. So you want to make sure you have some sort of heating. So would that be like a bulb, like a heat bulb or heat mat?
Okay.
If you have any of those, it's really important we have them on some kind of thermostat though, because they can get like hundreds of degrees, and this little guy only needs it to be like 90 or 95 for the heat side.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, can you recommend me some brands, or do you have like a pamphlet or anything?
We have information here, but I will tell you if you want to write in your phone, there's a brand called
that'd be so good.
Arcadia.
Okay.
You can find them at some local pet stores, but you can also find them available online.
Okay.
From retailers. They also sell supplements, and they also sell lighting. So they sell heat lights and UVB lights.
Okay.
Which UVB is really important for these guys, even though they are, another big fancy word here, crepuscular, which just means that they're active dawn and dusk.
Okay.
They do benefit from some sort of UV lighting, which is like what we get if we go outside in the sun. It helps them with not to get that condition called metabolic bone disease.
Okay.
Because even though you give him calcium, they need vitamin D to be able to utilize said calcium. So the UVB lighting helps them just to be able to obtain that through their skin. So super important. And Arcadia is, like I said, another really great brand that I recommend. Zoomed's another one. Exoterra. Pretty much a lot of the local brands that you'll find at those pet stores.
Yeah, I've seen those names before.
Yeah. And the only thing I would stray away from is like anything from like Walmart or stuff like that. I find that those types of products tend to vary even with their longevity. So you're not getting as much as you would for them.
All right.
I'm going to go ahead and give this guy a quick listen to, and then we can go ahead and chat about more of his husbandry, some enrichment. I'll put you down for 1 second, my guy. Too much. I was able to get a good listen. His heart and his lungs sound fantastic, even though he's wiggling around on me a little bit, but that's okay. All of it sounded clear and crisp. I didn't hear anything that was out of the ordinary, anything that would make me think he has any sort of like respiratory issues, which is super good because that's pretty common for these guys. They can end up getting a lot of respiratory issues, especially if they're too cold. So, and sometimes we see that in the pet stores because they put a bunch of them together. So we worry about that.
There was like 5 of them in there, and some of them didn't look too good. They had like a lot of like shed on them.
Yeah, this guy actually, he's got a tiny little bit of shed on his toe here. So what we'll do today in the office is we'll get that off for you. Okay. You just want to make sure you check these toes periodically because if this shed gets stuck on those little digits, it can constrict and the toe can actually fall off.
Oh boy.
I know, we don't want
That's
that.
scary. Yeah.
It's simple fix, just making sure when he's shedding them, he does go ahead and get all of that off.
All right.
You'll be perfectly fine then there. The only other thing that I'll have you watch out for is periodically you're going to want to kind of flip him on his tummy. He's not going to like it super much.
Okay.
But you want to check underneath here because he's a male. He's got these little pores. Those pores can become blocks sometimes.
Oh, no.
And if those become blocks, then, you'll have to come back here and see me and we'll have to get those cleaned out.
Okay.
They're normally pretty good if they have enough enriching surfaces. So things like cork bark, different kinds of woods, different kinds of different textures, different rocks, things like that in their enclosures, they can clean those out for them. But you just want to make sure they don't get impacted.
All right.
And then if you do see any sort of prolapses or any sort of bulges from this back end at any time, you're going to want to also give us a call and let us know because they can get to what's known as hemipenal prolapses, which is another big word.
Yeah, it sounds scary.
Yeah, it's basically when his little reproductive organs back here protrude out.
Okay.
And if we don't get to them in time, we would have to kind of amputate them.
Oh,
which
boy.
sounds really scary, but for reptiles, they don't need them to go to the bathroom or anything. So it wouldn't be a detriment to his overall health, but we just want to make sure he's not, if that does happen. Because it does happen periodically, especially with males. They get a little silly like that.
Okay.
Cool. Take a look in his mouth also really quick. You're also not gonna like this. Oh, you. Okay, what was I talking about?
Vaccines.
I was talking about vaccines. I was talking about vaccines. Yeah. So we don't really have any typical routine vaccines for these guys. They're not really high proponents at all of things like rabies. They don't really get any of the mammal stuff that we would typically see.
I know we get a lot of vaccines for my cat.
Yeah.
So they're not the same.
No, they're not the same. You just want to make sure you're being careful outside. Make sure you keep an eye on him. They can run away pretty fast, so they can get away from your grip and get away.
Okay.
One other thing I'll tell you, just so you're aware of it, these guys do have tail autonomy. So what that means is if you do kind of pull on him, or if something wants to pull on him specifically, I mention this with kids a lot. They can go ahead and detach this tail, which can be very startling for owners. That's why I want to just tell you about it so you're aware. It's not a thing that happens all the time. So you can see, I can put my hands on his tail. It's not like it's just an instant thing.
Okay.
But you don't ever really want to hold him by his tail, and you don't want to pull him by his tail. So if he does get away from you, it's always best to try to grab him from the top of his body and scoop him as opposed to pulling on him.
Okay.
But a lot of people get really worried about tail autonomy, but I've had leopard geckos for many years and I've never had to deal with anything like this. Now, if we were to talk about some other species will drop their tail in an instant. So it's much more common, but these guys will do it sometimes. And if they do it, his tail will grow back. It just won't look the same. So he won't be a little nub for the rest of his life.
Does it hurt them?
So the thought is that it's not particularly pleasurable for them, but in the eyes and the minds of the geckos, if it was like a bird or something that was coming to get them, it's better for them to be able to run and scurry away than lose their life.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
so
that makes sense.
Just they want to make sure that they can get away, and really mostly their tail is just as a fat reserve in a fat store anyways.
Okay.
So it's not a big deal for them to be able to. If he does lose his tail, though, I would recommend, if you are going to put substrate in his tank or whatever, go ahead and take that out if that does happen. Or if you have any health concerns at all, take that out and put him on paper towel. I would even recommend that for the first week or so of you having him. That just lets you monitor if he's going to the bathroom and what that stool looks like, because you can always bring a sample to us. We'll do a little fecal test just to make sure there's not any internal parasites going on here, because they can end up with some internal parasites. They normally start to not be able to maintain their weight as well. They lose weight relatively quickly, which I'm not seeing from him, but being with other geckos at the store, you just never know what they could have gotten, which is exciting.
Yes.
And I'm glad he looks great. He's got all of his toes. Sometimes when they are together like that, they can kind of fight. So he looks really, really good with all his cute little toes.
Yay! And he doesn't have fleas or ticks or anything?
He does not have any fleas, and I do not see any ticks on him at all. They can get sometimes some kinds of little mites, but normally they're very reptile specific.
Okay.
And they're really not that common. So unless you had like a bunch of animals at your own home, and this was more geared towards snakes because we get what we call them snake mites.
Okay.
That could be something more concerning. But for this guy with your only gecko in the house, it's not something that I would be super worried about.
Okay.
Yeah, no other little buggies. He eats buggies, but no other little buggies on him, which is super good. But if anything, you can always do little once-over checks of him. You shouldn't see any creatures running around on there, which is good.
All right.
Yeah, and his little toe might be a tiny bit red. I took that shut off, so sometimes when you take it off, it's a little bit irritated. But his little toe's going to be just fine.
Thank goodness.
Just fine.
All right.
Cool. Well, like I said, do I have any other questions that I can answer for you?
No, I think that is all.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
You guys are doing so good. Like I said, let's get that tank changed.
Yeah, I'll go pick a new one up.
Yeah.
Today.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'll order some of those lights and
Beautiful.
the new substrate and some of that good calcium for his
bones.
His little bugs.
Keep him nice and healthy and nice and strong.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, I will let my tech come in and then we'll get you guys set up to get out of here and enjoy your day, okay?
Thank you so much, Dr. Ann.
And you're so welcome.
It was a pleasure.